How did we get here to so few Black-owned farms? It started, like so many things, with a law that was meant to do good. Let's go back to 1933. And as many of you know, this is the Great Depression. The United States was in the midst of a very serious depression, as in, nobody ain't got no money. A lot of people are without work. A lot of people are having a very rough time. And among those having a bad time, farmers. You might remember from your U.S. history something about the Dust Bowl and all of this. Well, this is actually a slightly different issue. The Dust Bowl was in the Midwest. This is primarily focused on Southern farmers. So in 1933, President Franklin Roosevelt introduced the Agricultural Adjustment Act as part of his New Deal. And this groundbreaking law aimed to rescue American farmers by tackling one of the biggest problems: overproduction. You see, during World War I, that was like 1914 to 1918, farmers expanded their fields and invested in machinery to meet a soaring demand. We were feeding the world. But after the war, global markets dried up, leaving America with too much food and too little demand. Prices crashed, and farmers were left with mounting debts. Let's put some numbers on this. The price of a bushel of wheat dropped from $2 in 1919 to just 29 cents in 1932, and similar declines occurred for other commodities. The AAA, the Agricultural Adjustment Act, offered a bold solution: pay farmers to plant less. By reducing supply, crop prices could rise again. Subsidies were provided for cutting back on key crops like wheat, corn, cotton, and tobacco. It was a radical idea, the government paying farmers not to farm. And let's be clear, these subsidies did help stabilize prices over time. The downside was the devastating impact that it had on African Americans in the South. Let me explain. You see, these federal payments to farmers were distributed through local decision makers, county level agricultural committees. And these committees were dominated by white landowners who controlled which farmers in their jurisdiction received these subsidies, these payments from the federal government. Remember that this is happening 20 years before the civil rights movement really took hold in the South in particular. And so Jim Crow practices that were based on separating the races and notions of African American inferiority dominated Southern institutions, especially government. So Black farmers were often entirely excluded from receiving the subsidies to which they were legally entitled under federal law. Likewise, there was little to zero opportunity to appeal these committee decisions. Additionally, some politically connected committee members would siphon funds to increase and improve their own land holdings. The withholding of the federal subsidies from the 1933 Agricultural Adjustment Act changed our nation. First, let's talk about the tenant farmers. Southern farmers relied heavily on physical labor because with the fall in crop prices, it was just too expensive in the early 30s to mechanize their farms. But with the 1933 agricultural subsidies, they were able to invest in heavy machinery, eliminating the need for so many sharecroppers, and sometimes none at all. So sharecroppers were often evicted from the land that they'd been working for years, maybe even generations. Over 100,000 African American tenant farmers were evicted from the land they'd worked as sharecroppers in the first couple years. And by 1940, that number swelled to 500,000. The other impact is that with African American farmers not receiving their fair share of the Agricultural Adjustment Act subsidies, they were unable to hold on to their land. Even more ruinous to Black wealth was the loss in farm ownership. Between the 200,000 dispossessed African American farms and the 500,000 former tenant farmers who lost the opportunity to work a small plot of land sharing profits with the landowner, we saw the first wave of what is now called the Second Great Migration. Between 1940 and 1970, approximately 4.3 to 5 million African Americans left the South for the Northeast, Midwest, and West, seeking better economic opportunities and escaping racial discrimination, at least as practiced in the South. The historic failures of local governments to distribute federal funds equitably without penalizing some citizens based on race is one reason the federal government has taken a wider role in managing congressional mandates. Dispossession of Black farmland from the way in which the Agricultural Adjustment Act was implemented was part of a broader trend of systemic discrimination, which saw Black farmland ownership decline by 90% from 1910 to 1997. So what does this mean for us today? Well, understanding how systemic policies shaped our communities helps us build a better future. Thank you for watching our video. We're a new channel. Please subscribe. Also, check for notifications so that you'll be notified when we drop something new. And please share this video to help others know how we got here.